welcome to Belinda's Home Cafe. I couldn't really think of a cafe concept that I've done that fits the topic of this video, so it's just Belinda's Home Cafe. In this video, I'm going to be making my favorite Lao dessert. It's called Nam Van. It's basically a lot of different fruits and jellies and tapioca covered water chestnuts in sweetened coconut milk, and I love this a lot. So I thought I would share with you how to make it, and hopefully you'll be able to follow the instructions if you want to make it. The topic of this video is actually a presentation I gave at work, but I feel like it's something that I really want to share with all of you as well. It's about becoming a leader, finding my voice, and finding community through creating content. I've been creating content on Instagram for 5 years now, and that has had a big impact on my life and helping me find my voice. So I thought I would share with you my story. And I'm gonna do that as a voiceover because my house is too noisy and I feel like it would go faster as a voiceover because it is kind of long. So let's get started and I will see you in the voiceover. This Nam Van is sometimes called Nam Van Luang Meat because it has everything in it, but the base is coconut milk and sugar syrup. We also like to put in jackfruit, palm seed, steamed taro, agar-agar jello, and then we'll be making these things called Red Rubies using water chestnut, tapioca starch, and Thai syrup. At the Asian grocery store, Thai syrup will usually be the Honeybee brand or Hale's Blue Boy syrup, or you can use Pandan essence or food coloring. Since Nam Van is basically a bunch of fruits and jellies in coconut milk, you can also add in different fruits like lychee, melon, toddy palm seed, longan, or you can add in tapioca pearls and nata de coco. Sometimes we'll use fresh fruit when it's in season or not too expensive, but some of these things I can't get where I live, so I'm just using the canned version. You'll also want to add a pinch of salt at the end to bring out the flavors. Nam Van is really what you want it to be, so you can add as much or as little or none at all of each item. The first thing we're going to make is called Red Rubies. It's water chestnut covered in tapioca starch. So I'm just using canned water chestnuts and I'll cut them into little cubes about 1/2 centimeter each. But before I do that, I'm going to take them out of the can and give them a rinse. Now that we've gotten started, I'm going to go on with my talk. If you asked high school Belinda if she would ever enjoy public speaking, presentations, or would ever become an Instagrammer or YouTuber that shares parts of her life, including moments of vulnerability, high school Belinda would say no. If you saw Belinda when she was little, it would be even a bigger surprise because the Belinda of that time never talked at all. So how did I turn into an Instagrammer of 5 years with nearly 900 posts and at its most around 7,500 followers and someone who regularly makes YouTube videos? At the end of 2015, I started my Instagram account to share my love of reading. When you read a good book, you want to talk about it with others. I was never comfortable speaking when I was younger, but what I was confident in was writing. I think to really know who I am, you have to read my writing. All the thoughts trapped in my mind seem to make the most sense and be the most honest when written out. Instagram allowed me to tap into my creativity by posting photos, and it allowed me to share my thoughts in the form of written captions. In some ways, I think sharing thoughts with strangers on the internet is a lot easier than sharing thoughts with people in real life, even those you've known your whole life. I guess it's because the longer you know someone, the stronger their perception is of you, the harder it is to reveal anything that deviates from that perception. Instagram became a way I could express myself without fear of preconceived notions. It was a place where I could express how much I loved a book, but I could also express my insecurities, vulnerabilities, anxieties, and connect with people who may feel similarly. Here's what my account looked like at the beginning. This is my first post. It's one of my favorite books, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. You may know it as Shadow and Bone on Netflix. I didn't want to spend or have much money for decorations, so I would paint little things inspired by the book and use that in my posts. This is a screenshot of my account in 2019. It's the earliest photo I could find on my profile. In 2016, I read this book, you probably all know it, called To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han, and it changed my life. In the book, Lara Jean is a normal girl who isn't defined by being Asian. She isn't struggling with her identity or racism or being an immigrant or living during some historical event or time period, because if I read a book with a non-white character in the past, that was usually what the story centered on, and I lived that life. I didn't want to read about it. But Lara Jean, she was a normal contemporary American girl going to school and having a cute love story, and she just happened to also be Asian. Going back to our Red Rubies, now that I've cut up the water chestnuts, I'm adding Pandan essence. Normally we use Hale's Blue Boy or honeybee syrup in red or green, but since we ran out of the green, I'm using Pandan essence. You're going to coat the water chestnut and then let it sit for a little bit, and then using a Ziploc bag, add tapioca starch and add the water chestnuts so that you coat the water chestnuts with tapioca starch. To All the Boys changed my life because it was the first time I ever felt represented in a book or popular media as an Asian American girl. Because of To All the Boys, I started reading more diverse books being books written by or about people of color, those in the LGBT community, disability community, etc. I became an advocate for reading diversely because reading diversely helps us build empathy and understanding. Books can become a door through which we can open our minds to new and different perspectives and lives. To advocate, I created an online book club with my friend Alexandra Ang, who's also Asian American, and we hosted live YouTube discussions. We felt like at the time in the book blogging community there was an absence of people of color talking about diverse books, and I founded the official student book club at my university with a focus on diverse books. For the Red Rubies, you want to make sure that the tapioca starch covers the water chestnuts individually so they don't stick together. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm finished. Although I was advocating developing an online community and online persona, to be honest, I really struggled a lot with feeling confident as a Southeast Asian woman in real life, in school, and in tech. I had really good grades, but because I never saw anyone who looked like me in my classes, and I had trouble connecting with my computer science classmates, who were probably 90% white men and only really talked about building computers and gaming. It's totally fine if you fit that description. I think we should be free to enjoy and pursue our interests and hobbies without judgment, so long as it's not harmful. But because I was an Asian woman who loved Instagram, reading, fashion, journaling, knitting, dance, and BTS, not building computers or games, I always felt like a fraud because I didn't fit in with my peers and the stereotype of what a person in tech looked like. So what helped change this? Along the way of my social media journey, I gained a decent following and I started sharing more aspects of my life and experiences as a Lao Chinese American daughter of immigrants. Part of the reason why is because being Lao and Chinese informs a lot of my life, experiences, and perspective. It is my identity and it's not something separable. The other reason is because I didn't see much representation or diversity at the time or in the communities I lived in, being that I lived in Minnesota and I went to a Catholic private school for college, nor was there much diversity in mainstream media or social media. Think in the context of 2016 to 2018. And when I look back on my childhood role models, who I wanted to be when I grew up, I can't think of one person who I really admired that was or looked like me as a Southeast Asian woman. I also grew up in a small immigrant community and my dad came from a really poor refugee background. So there wasn't anyone in my community that I found a career role model in either. And it's not to say they don't exist because I'm sure they do and I have been exploring that more recently, but at the time they weren't visible or accessible to me. Now we're going to cook our red rubies, so you're going to put them in boiling water and once they float for a couple minutes you can take them out and put them in an ice bath. Once they've cooled down, it's nice to put them in sugar syrup so they can soak it up, but you don't have to do that. Because I never saw myself reflected or represented and because my audience was growing, I found myself in a position to be a leader, an advocate, and a role model beyond books. When I think of leadership, I don't only think of people in roles with leadership titles in an organized group. I would say that in creating content, I'm a leader. I'm giving people something to think about, a different perspective, the support of knowing they're not alone. Using content creation as an example of leadership, I applied for the Google Women Tech Makers Scholar Program and was named one of 20 scholars from North America in 2018. That summer, I went on a retreat to Google for all Google student scholars. There, I got to meet so many more people who were like me, women and women of color in tech who of course are amazing at computer science, but also had so many other interests, like reading, art, fashion, makeup, and they also wanted to have a bigger impact on the community in tech and outside of it. Because of creating content, I was able to become a leader, which helped me win the scholarship, meet all of these people, and form a greater community of support. Social media allowed me to stay connected with these people and expand my knowledge, community, and opportunities in tech. By staying connected with the people I met there, I've been able to connect with and see the diversity of women in tech that wasn't present in my immediate community at the time. That's the charm of social media. You can find and meet so many more people across the country and the world that are accessible to you in real life that share the same interests and values. You can create a broader network and community of support. I think there is power in seeing yourself reflected and represented, in seeing that you're not alone. Through the content I create, I wanted to show that we South Southeast Asian women, Lao Chinese American women exist, that we can get degrees in tech or music performance or French or all three of them at the same time, get scholarships from Google and attend national conferences, get internships and jobs at different companies, travel the world and study abroad. I wanted to show that we can enter these spaces that may never seem possible because we never saw anyone who looked like us or had similar backgrounds there. The next ingredients we'll prepare for Nam Van are palm seeds and jackfruit. The palm seeds are in syrup, so you'll want to wash that away and then give the jackfruit a rinse. You can also use fresh jackfruit, but I don't have any, so I'm using canned ones. We're going to be slicing them since they're in big pieces. Here's the post I shared when I graduated college. According to the Pew Research Center, in 2019, only 17% of Laotian Americans have bachelor degrees or higher, in comparison to 54% for all Asian Am and 33% for all Americans. Here's a post of the 2nd out of 3 times I won the concerto competition at my school and performed with a professional orchestra. Here's my Chinese New Year post for this year. Here's a post and my vlog from when I studied abroad in Paris. I picked that city because I knew there would be enough diversity there that I would feel safer as a person of color. According to NASFA study in 2019, only about 9% of study abroad students are Asian or Pacific Islander. Then lastly, for Lao New Year last month, I hosted a live online concert with piano singing and some traditional Lao music. I know some of these things may not seem like a big deal, but I assure you that seeing this kind of representation is really meaningful to someone like me or someone who may have a similar background. To connect this talk to more personal and professional development, since I originally made this for work, I think creating content allowed me to develop my skills in communication. We have a choice in whether we do or say something and how we do or say it, because not everything needs to be said or shared, and the internet is a place where things get easily misinterpreted. It's made me more intentional with my actions and words. It's a reminder to think before doing something, to ask yourself questions like, is this worded clearly? Can this be misinterpreted? Is this helpful or harmful? Is this redundant or taking up unnecessary space and time? Does this actually need to be said? In any context, I think these are great questions to ask yourself when communicating. Since I interact with a global audience, I've learned a lot more about different perspectives and lifestyles. I reflect about why people think the way they do or do the things they do. I think about how my actions can influence others and how others influence me. This is where we see the more negative aspects of social media. The crowd mentality, the chasing after an unattainable, filtered and curated life. I think something social media has really helped me develop is my sense of self and individuality. It's helped me recognize the things I value and my worth. When I talk about being an Instagrammer, the first question people usually ask is if I get free stuff or do I make money off of this? The answer is I do and have. I worked with small businesses, brands, publishing houses like Penguin, Macmillan, and Scholastic, but it's not really free because they give you stuff in exchange for your time, your work, and your voice. The reason why I mostly stopped is I recognize my worth and what I value. I recognize my influence. If I want to share or promote something, I want to share it because I believe in it, because I like it, because I think it has a positive impact. It fits my values and is worth the hours I put in. Because I'll tell you that most of my videos on YouTube take more than 16 hours of work. Most take a lot more. Like my journey into tech video where I wanted to share my experience as a Southeast Asian woman who started with no knowledge of the subject or industry. That video took around 3 weeks of development, prep, filming, and editing. So I'm intentional about everything I do. I don't want to do something, buy something, share something, film something in a certain style just because everyone else is doing it if I don't agree. I would say that these days I'm not easily swayed. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself and what I believe in, and I'm not going to chase after people who don't see my value or worth. As a content creator, I reflect a lot on how I present myself. It's navigating the line of authenticity and being genuine, but maintaining boundaries. We show up differently depending on who we are around. Belinda the friend versus Belinda the daughter of Asian immigrants versus Belinda the software engineer versus Belinda the YouTuber, Instagrammer. But I think the more I create content, the closer I get to being my authentic and genuine self, the less I feel like I need to filter who I am for others. I know myself better. The things I value, the things I find important, the things I can't leave behind when I log on for work, that I don't want to leave behind, like the experience of being an Asian American woman in tech. Actually, when I proposed this talk at work, I didn't intend on speaking about being Asian American at all, but it just turned out to be that way because like I said, it's my identity and it's not separable. Creating content made me more confident and comfortable with who I am, so I will more readily voice my thoughts. This means I can advocate for myself better and be more assertive, and with working from home, this means feeling comfortable on camera and collaborating through calls. back to our Nam Van, I'm cutting up Agar-Agar Jello with a serrate knife. To make Agar-Agar Jello, you just need to put Agar-Agar powder in some hot water with a little bit of sugar. Agar-Agar is a plant-based gelatin and it results in a pretty firm jello, which is nice for Nam Van because we'll put it in coconut milk. Using a serrate knife makes it a little prettier, and then after this I'll cut up the steamed taro into cubes. You might have noticed from some of my screenshots, or if you follow me, that I have a different username. I put in the title of this talk Finding My Voice, but I think it's a little misleading because I feel like I'm continually finding my voice. It's something that grows and changes. My username was originally Bookstorm, kind of like Brainstorm but with books, which captured my voice from 2015 to 2018 that centered on books and activism through reading. My voice in 2019 to early 2020 centered on leading by being a role model, sharing experiences of my last 2 years in university as a triple major, studying abroad and going to tech conferences. Then COVID hit. Quarantine life began and the way I wanted to use my voice shifted. I relaunched my YouTube channel last year and started vlogging. As a homebody who hates leaving the house, I wanted to show people the possibilities of staying at home and working from home. I wanted my videos to have this feeling of hanging out together and chatting in order to make people feel less alone and isolated in a time of isolation. It's the idea of how do I make do with what I have and what is available to me. It's also a way for me to share more about the daily life of the Asian American experience. Then 2020 started and anti-Asian racism was finally gaining attention. By now there's a lot more diversity in social media and pop culture, so there was a lot of conversation about the Asian American experience, conversations about the painful and traumatic things our communities have faced throughout the years, but also stories highlighting the diversity and beauty of Asian American cultures and experiences. I reflected a lot on my heritage and family's history as I celebrated Chinese New Year and Lao New Year, and I engaged in these conversations through social media. Something that struck out to me was the conversations around names, the power of names, having pride in reclaiming our names. My name is Belinda, but when I was little, my dad would sometimes call me by my Chinese name, Dajin. In Chinese, it means big gold, and for a while, I forgot about my name. My dad only used it when I was little, and for a while, I thought it was really embarrassing because it didn't seem like a real name, and I never felt Chinese enough growing up in a multicultural household in America. I don't have a Lao name, only my name and my Chinese name, Dajin. The name my dad gave me as his first child, and there is meaning in that. So after years of wanting to change my Instagram and YouTube name to reflect the content I'm creating, which is no longer solely focused on books, I found my answer. Belinda Jin, it is a combination of my two names, two things that give me definition, that capture my being, the being all my content is centered around. So that is the story of how I went from a person who never talked to a person whose words have reached thousands around the world, who became a leader, found and created community, found her voice, and continues to grow and transform with each post, each video, and each interaction with others through her digital content. Now that we have prepared everything, we can put together our Nam Van. I think it's kind of fun to have like a Nam Van bar and you can put whatever you like into it. Or else usually we just put it all in a big bowl and mix it up together. We have ice, coconut milk, and then sugar syrup. This is Agar-Agar Jello. And then this is the water chestnut that we cut up earlier and put tapioca over. And then we have jackfruit, have palm seeds, and taro. You can also add whatever fruits you like in. You can add lychee or the bigger palm seeds, or you can add melons, just whatever you want. I'm gonna start with this. This is actually my favorite. And put like that much in. Now put some jello. Some of these, I also really love these. Jackfruit. I think it's better to not put in the taro until you eat it because it'll absorb all the water. Just gonna put it in like that. Go. Some syrup. And of course you can make it however sweet or however not sweet you want it to be. Pour coconut milk. And mix it all up together. And once you have it to your liking, it's done. I think it makes a really great summer dessert treat. I eat it year-round because it's one of my favorites. Thank you so much for watching me make Naban and watching me talk about becoming a leader and finding my voice, finding community through creating content. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you again soon. Bye.